Wi-Fi. Okay. All right. Thanks. Get started. So, anybody got any fishing stories? You got a fish this big, way big? No. any practicing going on with fly casting or anything, or just kind of getting started? A little bit. Let's see. Let me do that one.
Me and this guy are going to the Madison next weekend.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
What part?
I don't know. My brother-in-law's taking us. He goes there every year, so he's going to take us this time.
Oh, wow. Are you floating or just waiting?
We're floating.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. We did that. I guided up there for about 7 years on the Madison.
I think we're staying in Ennis.
Yeah, probably in Ennis. We were I ran the West Fork cabin camp. So right on the river there, you'll go right by it. So on your left, it's a West Fork cabin camp. So yeah, a lot of good. I was going to say, might have to, I've got a map that I did for up there of fishing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it goes in between the lakes like Hebken and Quake, and then down through the slide in between the lakes, and then down from Reynolds Bridge almost clear down to McAtee Bridge. So on floating and different things. But if he lives up there?
No, he lives here, but he goes up there a couple times a summer.
Oh, okay.
Whatever. I've never been. This will be my first time.
Yeah, that's my favorite river. I'd bypass the Snake River and go up to the Madison any day.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's a nice river, because if you fall in, you just stand up. Kind of. The Snake River, you fall in, you better. It's a little bit scary. So
yeah,
crazy, but yeah, that's a good river. Anybody else going fishing? Did you guys see my post? I caught about a 19-inch brown trout on a dry fly. That was kind of fun. That was pretty fun. Just up the river that's real close here.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Scott Gorley. I'm Dave's brother.
Oh, okay.
Got Carter here, my son. You worked with him the other day.
Oh, okay.
We're kind of stuffing our faces, so I'm going to put you guys, off video here in a minute, so you don't have to watch us eat. But
okay, no problem.
We got back from the green, had a couple days floating down the green. That was fun. Wow. And then I'm actually going up to Palisades, up to do the Snake in a couple weeks. So.
Oh, cool.
A couple trips. Don't get to go, like where Paul gets to go. We'll just have to stay local. But.
Yeah, well, those are good places.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, I took my dentist up on the Madison, and he'd never caught so many big fish in his life. He'd been used to fishing the Logan and catching, small fish, and then I put him right on. I think his first fish was about 19-inch big old rainbow trout, and he was like, he's pretty. And then he's been back and forth. My internet may be going down a little bit, but we'll go ahead and get started. Let me share my screen here, and let me know if you guys can see that all right. Okay, let's start with, let's see, let me look at my notes here. Let's see, today we're going to talk about flies, and just kind of, there's about 1 million flies out there. You guys, how many have been to a fly store and went around the fly shop and seen all the flies? There are, how many do you think there are? Like 1 billion, maybe more? Different, so you might have one fly that's the same fly here, but in New York it's called something different or a different color or something like that. So there's a lot of flies. So it's kind of hard to find out what you want. Which one should I get? Should I get some of these? Should I get some of these? A good way to tell, a lot of the fly shops in your local area, or if you're going traveling up to the Madison or something, they have boards, or you can go into a fly shop and they'll usually tell you kind of what's going on and get you pretty close to what you need. But there are certain flies that you can basically fish anywhere in the world, really, and do pretty good with. And a little bit different, if you're doing saltwater fish or different, and it might be a little different. But if you're stream fishing or trout fishing, you can use a lot of these flies, and you might be a little bit bigger in different places. But we're just going to talk about those. If you have any questions on flies or anything, but we're just going to kind of go through each one of them a little bit. And I think there's 10 or 12 flies that we're going to go through. If you had these 10 or 12 flies in a little bit different variation, you could fish, you know, if those are the only flies you had, you could catch fish anywhere you went, basically. So we're going to go through, let me look at my first page here. Let's see, let's look at, so this, on this one, if you guys can see that, okay. Oh, I hit it twice. Usually it's by pattern type. There's 4 different kind of areas of flies. Imitative patterns. They kind of imitate the bugs or get pretty close to the fly that you're trying to imitate. And basically what a fly is just something that a fish sees every day, but it's just artificial, so it's not real. And then there's the attractor patterns. A lot of you know, like the famous royal wolf is an attractor pattern. We'll talk about that a little bit. Those are patterns that just, for some odd reason, if you plop it down in front of a fish or whiz it by a fish or let it come float by a fish, they'll grab it just because it looks interesting to them. It might have flashy colors or anything like that. Search patterns can be like a streamer. If you don't know the water very well, like on the Madison, you could do a streamer pattern. If you're floating, you can just put a streamer on. You cover a lot of fish in the way you fish it, and you really covered most of the water, and then you'll pretty much affect some of the fish, and you'll get pretty good fish that way without kind of concentrating on a specific hole or a run or something like that. So the search patterns are something that if you're fishing a river that you don't know, you can use the search pattern flies and just kind of find out where the fish are. They may not come up and hit it, but if they come up and look at it or flash so you can see them, then you can maybe come back the next day or go on and then come back and use a dry fly or a nymph to try to get it. And then impressionistic patterns are flies that look really, really close to what they are, and we'll kind of go over that a little bit. So the first one, let's see. First thing you do so if you have these flies, it's still a matter of getting to the river and just, you know, as you're getting ready, if you're putting your waders on or just sitting by the bank, you start looking at the branches and the weeds around the water and start looking at the bugs that are flying. If you're looking at, let's look at this fly. This one is a caddis fly, and it kind of has a tent wing, and I'll kind of explain more to you. But these caddis, they're really erratic. So they're flying up, flying down, you know, kind of darting. They're not real smooth. And so instantly, if you saw that fly, you would know, okay, this is caddis. And so I can do 2 things. You can do a wet fly with a caddis, and we'll talk about that a little bit. We can do a dry fly. And so you can kind of do both. So you're kind of in the ballpark. There's another, the mayfly like this with the upright wing fly. They're pretty smooth. They're not as erratic as a caddis, but they're kind of floaty. And you can really tell what these are just because of the upright wing. So as you're going to the river, and sometimes you may not see any of it. You may, where it might be real hot during the day or anything like that. There may not be a lot of bugs. Usually the bugs kind of come off in different periods of the day, either in the morning or the evening. Evening's a really big time that they come off. And then they have cycles during the day. They'll have and it depends on the weather, the water, the temperature and everything. So the bugs will kind of come off and they'll kind of hatch and float down the river, and you can see fish fishing on them or eating on them. And so that's just some of the things you get to the river you can see. But normally, if you look online, you can see just for example, going up to the Madison, you can go on Google, you can go Madison River, July hatch chart, you know, and then you can look at that and it'll have gray parachute Adams. It'll have all kind of the names of the different flies that are coming off, so you can get a good idea with that. So you can kind of gear up for that. So where you're fishing, there's other on the patterns, tractor patterns. I use like one fly for an attractor pattern. We'll talk about that. and I just start out with that. For one thing, I can see it, and fish generally like it, and they'll always see it, and it resembles a lot of different things, and we'll talk about those. And so let's go ahead and we'll get to this next page here. Yeah, let's start with, we kind of looked at it. Let's see. So we'll start with that, with the elk hair. This is a caddis fly. And let me show you the, so here is it's called the caddis pupa fly. And so it's a bead head, but it looks like the caddis that it's in the water, that when it's ready to hatch, comes out from the rock and it'll float up. When it hits the water, it'll kind of break through the water surface and then turn into the caddis, the real caddis. Let me see if I've got the. So and here's the fly. So the caddis, the elk hair caddis. This is kind of there's lots of different types. This is a little bit more sparse one. I kind of like them pretty thick. This one's I start with this one wherever I go if I'm dry fly fishing on a small stream.
Hey, Blake. Hey, Blake.
Oh, yeah, yep.
My brother-in-law's texting me saying he can't get in. I think he's in the waiting room. Can you?
Oh, okay.
Let him in?
Perfect. Yeah, good thing to. Let's do this. We'll get him in here. I'll stop share, come over there. There we go. All right. Now he should be in, or he should be coming in. There you go. I think he's there. Connecting to audio. Okay. I think he's in.
There we go. Thank you.
There he is. All right.
I'm in.
Okay. I think I hit the wrong button when I made this meeting to do the admittance, but I'll kind of watch that a little bit. Let's go back to the screen and I'll check that. Check that back. Let's go shared screen. Okay, we're just talking about, and you guys can see that fly again. Is that right? Okay. Let's see. You are. Let's check on this. Okay, a real good fly pattern. So probably the first one I'd put in your box of flies or learn how to tie as a caddis fly for a dry fly. It floats really well. It has the hair on the deer hair is hollow. So if you use any form of fly floatant or muslin is what I use. And I'll put that, I think I took the sticker off, but muslin, what that does, that'll float pretty much all day until you catch a fish. Then it kind of gets a little bit of slime on it, but then you just wipe it off and start over. So that would probably be like the #1 fly as far as a dry fly that I would start out with. It resembles a lot of things. It can kind of resemble a mayfly a little bit. It does a caddis fly. It does a hopper. So in sizes, this would probably come in size probably 14. Let's see, size 16 would probably be your smallest, and then 14 and 12, and you can even go up to a 10, and it would be a hopper. And so it'd be a kind of just a really generic hopper. The body is green right here, but you can do, I like black because it silhouettes off the white hair of the deer hair. So the black body and then the white here, because the fish is looking up at it. So it sees kind of the black or dark olive body, and then it has kind of the white that kind of covers it. So it kind of contrasts real good. So they can get a real good silhouette of it. So that's awesome fly. Real easy to tie. Probably it's only 3 materials. The tying the hair on takes a little bit of practice, but it's pretty fun and easy. So that's so this is what it looks. This is kind of, let's see, let me look. Oh, this is what it looks like when it's in the water. So that's a caddis just underneath the subsurface, under the rocks. It'll crawl around and then it'll come up. It'll float through the water and then come up and then hatch and then come out to that. And so this kind of resembles this. You can kind of see the similarities. You could actually put a black bead on this fly and do pretty good. Oh, my internet's a little slow. So just back and forth. This is just a resemble of that, and then turns to that, and then so that would be the fly right there. So let's go on to the next one. Let me look at my chart. Okay. And this would be the next fly that I would use. It's just a Parachute Adams. The one thing about this, the Parachute Adams, is something you can see really well. You can do a regular Adams, but it doesn't have that white tuff up in the air. And so it sits flatter on the water. This you can cast 20, 30 feet, upstream and see it really well. That's one thing I really like to, it helps to see the fly. And so when you get a hit or a fish tries to take it, you can react a little bit. If you can't see the take or something, it's don't lose as many fish, but it's a little bit tougher to hook up on. And so that's this is a gray one. You can do, what I would do on this one is do the Parachute Adams, but the body, I would do a dark body and then a light body. So you could do a dark one, either a dark gray, a dark olive, even a black, and then you could go like to a color, maybe a rusty brown or a kind of a tan, or yeah, probably those two, probably a white a little bit, because if you see the bugs on the water, maybe it's a tan one that a mayfly, so you just put one of these with the tan, try to get the same size. So if you can, if you have a bug land on your hand, it's like a size, you hold the fly up to it, that's kind of what the fish is going to key on. So if the fly is, say, a size 12 and you're fishing, say a size 14 and you're fishing a size 12 or a 10, your imitation fly is going to be a lot bigger, so the fish is not going to think that that's correct in his kind of line of thinking as far as food goes. So you try to match pretty much the color and the size, and then you've got it pretty good. And so this one, this is the one I caught. Let's see if I can find it here. I'll show you a picture after I show you this, but it was about I saw a fish rise up on the water, and he didn't take my caddisfly, and that's the first one I would use. And then, so it was a tent wing. And so if you fish and fish and fish with that one and nothing coming up, try this one. So I would go to this one next. And so this is a totally different, so it's a mayfly. And I put this one on, cast twice, and caught about a 19-inch brown trout. It was a really nice fish on this exact fly. So it's pretty good. If you guys have any questions or anything, let me know, but I'll continue to go through there. Let's see. So this is the kind of the equivalent of this. You can kind of see that the wings are straight up. And so let's see. And depending on, this one's kind of a dun color, kind of a cream color. This one's a gray, but you can kind of see a little bit of resemblance. And let's see. And so you'll see that on the water. Wherever there's water and the hatches going on, you can kind of see that and kind of match that. And so that's the second fly that I would go for. And let me go with another one here. Okay. Oh yeah, let's see. This is actually the mayfly nymph that we'll talk about when we get into the wet flies. So this is the mayfly this is the kind of the juvenile or the starting point of, let's see where to go, of that right there. So if you look under a rock, so say if you're on the river, if your kids or something, if you turn over a rock, you'll see a bunch of these scurrying away. You'll see the color, and they're just kind of, that's what the fish eat. These will kind of get dislodged from the river or be hatching, and they'll come through. They're under rocks, but they have to hatch through the water and get to the surface. So as they're coming up, the fish will take these little nymphs, and that's nymph fishing is the key to catching a lot of fish. So that's that part of that. And you can kind of tell the color of this. It's a little darker, and then it'll be similar color when it gets into the size like that. And let's go to this fly. The next fly is a woolly bugger. And if you're lake fishing, this works really well when you're lake fishing. Whoever's been trolling in a boat or something, if you see the kick boats and they'll fly fish, but they have a sinking line, they'll put one of these on there. It's usually weighted line, so it'll take the fly way to the bottom, and they just kind of kick around, and they hook up. It's kind of fun because you kind of just kick around, kind of twitch it every now and again, go slow, turn, kind of twitch it in different rhythms. And then eventually the fish, they'll follow it and they'll hit it. When they hit it pretty hard. And my internet's kind of going up and down. But this is an olive one. You can do black, you can do purple, you can do white, you can do yellow, all different colors. Bead heads are really good. Kind of gives it a fish type motion. A kind of that weight of the thing makes the head go down as you kind of twitch it. And these are a little bit bigger. They'll be size 8, 6, and 4. And so they're on the bigger side. So they're probably, wonder if I've got. I've got some, let's see. So this one you can kind of see. This is a smaller one. I don't know if you can see it very good. I'll hold it up. It's contrast. But they're just a little bit smaller, but they're just kind of it looks like basically a leech pattern. So in the lake, these work really well. So if you're casting into a lake, say on the bank, you cast way out, let that sink down and just strip it in. Just strip it in different intervals or quickness or really slow. And then that's kind of the attractor, and that's what will work in. That's how I got started tying flies, is I started tying woolly buggers because they're real easy. I went up to the lake, started catching fish, and everybody's like coming around saying, what are you catching those on? So I'd say, well, I can tie you some, I'd tie them 5 or a dozen flies or something of what I was doing. And I'd see them up there the next time and they say, yeah, I want some more. So I'd start tying flies for a lot of people. And then I ended up tying flies for, through college, through work. And so it was pretty good. So it's a lot of fun to get into it. And if you tie your own, they're not too expensive at the store, but they're a little bit cheaper if you tie them. And then you can sell them to your uncles, or even the kids can tie them. The dad says, hey, tie me some flies, and because he doesn't have time maybe, but you can tie for him, but then charge him. No. Well, he might charge you for gas and food and rent and all that stuff. So maybe just give them to him. He might take you fishing. And so that's
Hey, Blake,
yep.
so what kind of, you were saying to do it in a certain rhythm. What do you usually do when you're stripping line with a woolly bugger?
If you're on the lake, say if you're in a float tube or a pontoon boat or anything that you're kind of kicking, just kind of movement. So what you'll do is you'll point your rod almost to the water. This is a little bit different. You don't have your rod straight up when you're trolling or in the lake. So you'll kind of point down, almost touching the water, and then you'll have your rod. I don't think I have one here. And you'll just put your rod, put your string, your line over your string, and then just pull down. And you might just pull, stop, pull, stop. And then what happens if you keep track of the rhythm? And so you might go pull, and then hesitate, and you can even just pull it in really, you just pull it real slow. So if whatever, mix it up. So and sometimes you can get kind of the rhythm that actually attracts or makes a fish bite. So if you go around, maybe do a loop or something in your kick boat, if you're twitching it just like 1, 2, 3, and then letting it sit for 2 or 3 minutes, and then usually what that fish does, or the fly, let me get this other one. So this fly will come over and you're kind of twitching it, and then it'll kind of go down. And then as soon as you twitch it again, that first twitch, that'll make, the fish is sitting right here. That first twitch may have that fish take it because it's going to get away from it again. So if it attracts it over, and then kind of stops and then goes again, that fish is going to go, oh crap, he's going to get away. So I'm going to take it. So what you can do, and I've done it a lot of times when you're float tubing, is you remember what you're doing to catch a fish when you caught the fish, and then land that one and then do that same thing, because that's what triggered the fish to bite in the first place. It doesn't work all the time, but it's a good, it's better than doing fast. Keep doing fast, you never catch any fish. But if you do slow, tug a little bit, tug, 3 in a row, and then let it sit, and then tug, sit, tug. And then if you get a hit, then you just keep doing that after you catch that fish, and you'll have a little bit better chance, because that's what made one fish react. So it may make another fish react the same way. And so you just kind of buried up, and so it's really quite. It's fun because when you're in the float tube and you're kind of trolling, man, when they hit you got to hang on to your rod because they about pull it right out of your hand, depending on how big it is. But they really smack it pretty hard, so it's pretty fun that way. Any other questions on those?
You're skimming these on the surface, or you're letting them sink a little bit?
They're going way down. You'll buy with your reel. You'll have you can either buy a whole separate reel and buy a sinking line. So there's a floating line that you probably use 99% of the time, and then when you're on a lake, you'll buy a sinking line, which is there's different types of lines. So there's different speeds of sink. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and so you can probably get like a number two sinking line, and so you'll cast out and let a lot of line out. So your line may be 30 feet out, but 20 feet down or 10 feet down. So you're kind of past where the fish are, so you're not spooking them. So it's actually like trolling. So it's almost like a downrigger on a boat, but you just use the line is weighted, and so it'll go down. So you're fishing under the lake. You can fish dry fly on top of the lake, as they're coming up on top, but normally on a lake you'll kind of troll for that. So it's a lot of fun, and it's a good way for kids to do it because they don't have to be really finesse. They don't have to cast under a tree. They don't have to do all this, but then they won't catch you don't do a lot of casting because it's heavy line. So you basically let some line out, kick out, and just let line out just to, get enough out so it's going down. And then the fish hook themselves pretty much because they'll come. So the fish is right here, or the fly going this way, and the fish will come up, grab it, and turn backwards. So it'll actually hook themselves. Basically, all you do is just hang onto your rod. You'll feel a tug, and you don't have to, time just right on a dry fly or anything. It basically hooks themselves. So it's a good way for kids. If you're in a float tube or even a boat or something, or two float tubes together, or pontoons, and then you can just kick and just kind of go with each other. You get a lot of hookups that way for kids younger kids. So, and it's a lot of fun. And then you can reel him and play him. And if it's a big one, you can water ski behind it. Well, maybe not that big. That's on the lake. If you're down in the ocean getting a shark or something, but that's probably not too fun. I wouldn't be dangling my feet down in that type of water. And so that, any other questions on that? So that's kind of the lake fishing part of it, but that's where up by the Madison, there's Quake Lake and Hebken Lake. They do a lot of that. And we've caught some big fish that way. You get a lot of fish because you're not spooking them. They're way down. And like you say, they hook themselves. All you got to do is once you hook them, play them and get them in. And so that's a lot of fun that way. Let's see. And so these are on the little bit bigger side. Let's see. Okay. And then we talked about, let's see. Got to find my one fly. Talked about that one. Caddis. I got to find oh, there it is. Okay, so this is the Royal Wolf. Okay, this is probably the most famous fly. And it kind of looks like a mayfly with the upright wings, but it has a lot of colors. So basically it's an attractor fly. I've used this if I'm on new water, like on the Madison, I'll have them put one of these on if I'm dry fly fishing and time of year. I'll put one of these on front and then maybe a smaller one on back. So I'll fish two dry flies. But this one, at least the fish will look at it and then maybe not want that one, but they'll go and get the back one because this one is, it's just kind of like so if you see a big, who likes, you can see a big diesel truck that goes by, you're all looking at it, or, that's kind of what this is to a fish. It's like, wow, that's a big diesel truck that blows a lot of coal or, whatever. It's something like that. So it's an attractor fly. And you can get them really big, size 10, that's way too big, but 12 to 14, you can do really well with those. And so it's kind of something you'd put on if you don't know what else to put on, and see if a fish will come up and eat it. And just because it's kind of like, some people call them strawberry shortcake, just because they have a lot of flavor to them, I guess. But that's a good one. Let's see. This on the bottom, it says it it's been, you know, for 70 years, it's been one of the go-to flies for a lot of people. And it says probably the perfect prospecting dry fly. So you can put that on. This one and the Elkhart caddis would be my two that I went to just to, you know, go on a stream, especially up in the high mountains where they don't see a lot of flies. You could put this one on and catch a lot of brookies and stuff like that if you're in a smaller stream, because they'll come up and hit just about anything because there's not a lot up there for them to eat other than maybe a hoppers every now and again. So, but that's good. Let's see. I'm going to see if anybody else needs to come on. Nope. So we'll keep going. We'll share that again. Okay. Let's see. Let's go with, so we talked about this fly. This was the mayfly that come up. This next fly is another kind of, we talked about, this one is another kind of famous one. It's called the gold rib hare's ear. And this one, if you had this one and another fly as far as a nymph, so what this one is when we go underneath. So this is when the little bugs crawl on the rocks, but then go to hatch and kind of come up. This is what this resembles, this gold rib hare's ear. And see how kind of, this is a good fly to tie, because the messier you are, the messier or the more scraggly it is. See, it kind of looks like legs and stuff like that. That makes it really good in the water, because all those little parts and pieces will kind of move kind of like legs, like either the gills or the legs. So that one is really good. This one, so this one is, let's see, I'm trying to think. So basically that's what that is. And then it goes to that on top. And so that's the kind of the real one. And then let me go through, let me show you this one. Does anybody know what this one is? Oh, you see it right there. This one's probably the best. I've probably caught more fish on this fly than any other fly that I have as far as a nymph. And this is called the beadhead prince nymph. And so this one is kind of like the, let's see. So look at this one and look at that one. So the royal wolf, that's that color. And then you got the beaded prince. So you can kind of see if I go back and forth. This one has a lot of color, a lot of flavor. It resembles like a stonefly, a mayfly, all that kind of stuff. But this would be the top water kind of attractor. And then this would be the underneath the water attractor. And so if you had this, and you can have a bead on it or not a bead on it, but the bead helps to get it down a little bit. So, and it kind of gives a little bit of head, kind of a head shaped look. If you could tie one of these, man, you could probably, this would be a good, I tied thousands and thousands of these, and that's the first thing I'd put on as far as a nymph under the water. Like on the Madison, this is a Madison fly like crazy. I mean, if you had only one fly to use underneath the water, this would be it. You'd catch flies all year long. You could do it. And so that's a really good one. Let's see, let me check my list here. Let's go through. So we did that one. Woolly bugger, caddis. So that one's, so this one also on the gold rib hare's ear, they come in different colors. So you can do, this one's kind of the famous with the gold rib and then the tan body. But then you can do, there's olive, there's black, but this color, just the gold rib hare's ear, it's made of hare's ear fur. So it's really kind of scraggly, and that's the best, one of the best flies you can do inside. And I'll go through the sizes. This one you probably wouldn't go any bigger than a 12, but then you'd go down. So you'd go 12, 14, 16, and even 18. 18 is pretty small, but I would probably, your average one, 12, let's see, let's go. I'd probably on a 14 size hook. That's probably a good all around, because you don't want to get them too, I mean, you can go small, but that's when you get real finicky and stuff like that. But a size 14, you can pass off pretty good. Let's see. This one is another one that's called the pheasant tail nymph. So it's kind of basically just like that one. Let me get back up. So it's just a little bit, it's made all of pheasant tail and a little bit of dubbing. So the dubbing right here on the body, and then the pheasant tail is the tail, the body, and then kind of the legs. And so this is another one. And you can also put a bead head on this one. So this is a really, really good one also. And I'll be doing some video on the Instagram of how to set we kind of talked about how to set the nymph line up, but I'll kind of show that and actually fish it and show you how to fish it. And then this one, if all else fails, let's look at this one. What's that one? Worm. This is called the San Juan worm. Sometimes you kind of have to hide when you put one of these on, because some of the purist fly fishermen don't like this one. Just because they say, hey, you're fishing with a worm, you ought to just go get a worm and a spin rod or something. Now these work really well. There's a lot of different types, and it's a good attractor pattern, and it's good when the water is a little bit off color. And so let me grab a drink here. When the water's off color, the fish kind of look for these type of things because they're getting washed in with the mud. And so if a stream is off color on one side or something, you can put a San Juan worm on there, and they pick up on those real good because it's part of what they eat all the time. So it's really good. And it's a bigger meal too than maybe say say that one. So that one's that's a big picture, but this worm, if they eat one of those, man, that's like going to McDonald's and getting 2 Big Macs or something for a fish, other than maybe 1 chicken nugget, maybe a small chicken nugget. So, and so that's a good one. Let's see. This one, can anybody tell me kind of what this one looks like? Kind of looks like the shape of a small
Mouse?
Yeah, it could be. Or if you have a big fish, you got to have what? Small fish. So this is it's called a muddler minnow. And so what this one is, it's a streamer, but you can also use it as if it's not weighted, you could use it as a hopper. You could use it as a mouse. You could use it as a stone fly, a salmon fly, and kind of a lot of things. It's mainly used as a streamer. This one's tied. So when you're nymphing on the Madison, especially when you're nymphing, if you can have somebody tie some size 14, or probably size 14 is probably small enough, muddler minnows, and they're tiny. They're hard to tie if that's small. But what happens when you're nymphing with one of these on as one of your flies, because you'll have drag on your fly, because you'll nymph, but you'll try to get free float. But then as soon as you start dragging or let it swing around to start casting again, that acts like a streamer. And so what happens is it's like a little fish, but it doesn't, when you're nymph fishing with two of these, like this one and maybe, or let's see, say you have that one and the Prince nymph on, they have to pretty much dead float because a nymph can't really swim, so it's just going to float kind of dead on the water. But if you have this one on in a small size and it's scooting really fast across the water, it kind of resembles a small fish. And so the bigger fish are going to pick up on that, and just like, so I would always have one of these on my front fly. So when I swung it around, you can use it as a streamer and a nymph type thing. So it's a pretty small fly when it's that small, but you can actually get them real big too. They're like size 4. Let me see. I've got this other one. I don't know if I showed you this one here. I think I showed this last time, and it's kind of, I don't know where I can see it the best, but it's kind of like, it's just like a big puff of whatever. But when it gets in the water, man, it really turns in, it almost looks like the sculpin. And if you look up a sculpin, they just look like just kind of a flat-headed fish. So I wonder if I could, let me see if I could scroll. See if I can pull up a sculpin image. Yeah, so let me see. See if you guys can see. So you guys, can you see that up in the right-hand corner there? A little bit. So it's kind of like just a flat-headed fish. It's not very big. I don't know how to do it very big, but let's see. But it's just a big, kind of a small fish that would look like. And so, but they're really good. This one, I probably wouldn't worry about it like streamers at first. I would work on nymphing first, dry fly second, and then streamer next. Or let's see, lake fishing, trolling, or on a float tube. That would be probably one for the lake. But nymph fishing first, get real good at dry fly, and then streamer fishing. Streamer fishing is the hardest out of the three, basically, because you got to you got to cast into tight spots. You got to strip really fast. And so there's a lot of movement, a lot of things going on all at the same time, and it can be kind of frustrating if you don't know how to cast real good or don't know water or stuff like that. So let's see. Let's look at that. This one, you guys can still see that. Yep. This one's called the soft hackle, and it's kind of like these legs. So here's the body, and it kind of resembles what that is, but in a kind of a real simplistic way. And where to go? I'll find it. There we go. So the soft hackle is something that you can fish on the swing. And so this is a good one to have on also, because if it's a new fisherman, you get a lot of swing, a lot of drag, but the fish pick up on that because it's kind of a not necessarily a swimming nymph, but it takes on swim, so the fish react to it. Kind of, they have something in their brain that says, there comes some food whipping by me. I'm going to go get it because I want to eat. You know, it's kind of like going through the drive-in really fast. As you go through the drive-in at McDonald's, they throw the food out to you, you catch it, you keep it going. But this one is a good one, and it's real easy to tie. Kids can tie some of these up with 2 materials, and it takes about 30 seconds. And so they're really good flies to take. And I'll email a list of flies and sizes to everybody that's on that has a email with me. So I'm making that up, and so you can kind of sizes and different stuff like that, so you don't have to take notes or anything. Let's see. Let's look at that one. Here's another Prince nymph. Like I say, that's a really good fly. Royal Wolf. This one is another attractor. It's called a Chernobyl ant. They get them from Russia, where the Chernobyl thing went loose. No, they're just really big attractors. So they're big flies that can resemble mostly hoppers, but basically it's just something that smacks the water, and fish kind of react to it depending on where you're at, and it looks like a big meal for them. It might be a small bird or moth or something like that hits the water. So it's and there's a lot of different kinds. If you look up, there's cicadias down on the Green River. I don't know if you saw any cicadias. They're big black, like almost a cricket. They're big black. They make a lot of noise. This could be in a black color, and kind of resemble a bunch of those. Let's see. Let me look at some other on my list. Okay. Any other questions while I just pull this other one up? I've got a couple more. What questions you guys have about flies and different things?
What are waters, Blake?
What water? What are they? What did you say?
Yeah, what are waters?
What do you mean waters?
Waters.
Oh, waders.
Oh, waders. Oh, yeah. What did I put? They are just kind of a suit that you wear to keep you dry. So they're kind of like boots. Yeah, waders. I don't know if I spelled it wrong or whatever. And those, you can use them. I went fishing the other day when I caught, and I thought it was really warm outside. So I said, I'm just going to wet wade, but the water is coming at the bottom out of the dam, and it's really cold. So it was like 90 degrees outside, and my legs were purple because they were cold, or they were really cold. So I had to get out about every 10 minutes to let my legs warm up and then get back in. I had my waders, but I thought it was warm enough. But they're nice to keep you nice and comfortable if the water's on the Madison River. Sometimes I just wear wading pants, and so because I was usually holding the boat, walking the boat down, and I'd fall in every once in a while just because I was jumping around doing a lot of things on trying to catch net fish, and so I didn't want to have to worry about waders, getting water in them or anything like that. So it was warm enough that you just wore wading pants and then your wading boots. So it was pretty nice that way. Let's see. What other questions? So basically on the flies, like you can get a bunch of them, but I would start out, it's kind of like, let's see, what would it be like? It's kind of like you start out with the ones that you kind of know that you like, the Elkhart caddis, the Adams, and different things. So you don't have, if you have 20 to choose from, it's harder to choose. But if you have one to choose from, if you have 4 to choose from or 2 to choose from, either a tent wing or an upright wing, then it's a little bit easier to, let me show that one. So if you have an upright wing and a tent wing, and you only have those two, but you have different colors and different sizes, then you don't have to choose between 1,000 different ones. So in your box, you can kind of just start slowly by getting different things. If you catch a lot of fish with the caddis, like with that one, then you're like, wow, I can see that one, man, it works great. I'm going to make sure I have, a dozen of those, six in this color and 6 in this color, and hopefully I don't lose them all, or or get them in a tree. But then I'll have those. And then if you have your parachute Adams in the gray and in the light color or something like that, you'll be able to pick pretty quick. So you're not looking at your flies going, I got 100 different types of dry flies. Which one am I going to use? And I've got a lot of those in my box, different types. But I normally go back to this one and Elkhart caddis, and then vary the size and the color. And so it makes it really easy that way. And then same with the nymphs. You can get real crazy. You'll see some fly boxes with a bazillion different colors. They have 6 of every kind. What are you gonna, just work with the ones that you have, fish with those, and you can pretty much catch pretty much anything with those. It's not amount, and I can probably, with a couple of these flies, so say let's see, is there a pheasant tail? That one, and yeah, that one and this one, I could probably catch, even if the fish aren't eating that particular color or size, just by presenting it properly, you can catch fish with that, because it's going to go by them enough times. They're going to go, I'm going to eat that. And so it's just a matter of technique is got a lot to do with it, but matching closely what they're eating already helps quite a bit too. So let's see. And so if you have a few dry flies, so I would go with Elkhart caddis, Adams, and maybe a Royal Wolf, just as an attractor pattern, and then just kind of vary sizes. And then on the nymphs, I would go the Prince nymph for sure, the hare's ear, and this one also comes in a bead, and on the back, it's called the brassy. So they'll have a bead, and then this, and then they'll have a copper wire on the back, and then the tail, it's called the brassy. So it's kind of like just a variation of a pheasant tail, and that's a really good one. I don't have a picture of that one, but then if you just start out a few, and then you can expand. So say if you go to a fly shop and say, hey, they're hitting these really good, you buy a couple of those, and maybe they do, maybe they don't, but you have a couple. But you don't want to go buy 1,000 of everything and then not use any, only use 2 types. So then you can have a little bit smaller thing to choose from. And then let's see. Any other questions you guys have as far as, and is there any, as far as fishing, and it could be on anything, what other things do you guys want to learn that we maybe haven't covered as far as casting? I've got another Instagram thing coming out probably tomorrow about playing a fish. So there's 2 there. So you go out, you find the right fly to use, you cast. So that's part of it. You cast, you read water, you hook the fish. And then when you hook the fish, you got to know how to land it. It's not, and that's important. On my next video, it'll show, like a bass fisherman, when he hooks one, he rips it in 100 miles an hour, picks it up with his rod, puts it in his boat, yanks it off, and catches another one. You don't do that with the fly rod. There's just certain things that you won't catch any fish that way if you try to yank them in or pull them in without giving them leeway or kind of it's a battle back and forth. So any other questions that you had that you guys want to learn that maybe we haven't covered yet?
Well, speaking about landing fish, what about you mentioned rubber baskets on your fly net
Yeah.
as helpful as being helpful, but what size of net is good to have, and how do you attach it to your body in the best way?
On the nets, depending on, say, if you're fishing small streams, but you can have a couple nets. Like on the Madison, I had a net that was about this big with a kind of a basket rubber net that was 8 feet long that extended. And so what that does, I was in the boat, but I could reach way out and for clients and stuff out of the boat. But if you're by yourself, a lot of guys will they'll attach with like a bungee cord to their on their back. They have a kind of a D-ring, and they'll have a magnet back there, so you can just kind of get it close, and then it'll hook up, so you kind of hang it on your back. Mine actually, I just have a piece of paracord tied through the hole of the net. I don't think it's here, but I just have it long enough so I can take it off. I just have it around my neck, and you can do it a lot of different ways. You can do a bungee cord, and then with the magnet. I use one when I guide. I just use it's a big one I use as a staff or a wading stick. But then on small streams, you don't need a real big like a basket. You don't need a big one. Just something small. If you know you're going to catch big fish, you might need a little bit bigger one. But probably, I would say, probably about 10 feet or 10, not 10 feet. That's sharp. 10 inches wide and maybe about 12 to 16 inches long. But at the fly shops, or you can pick them up online. You can pick them up. But the one thing you've seen the ones with the aluminum with the kind of the green, really coarse netting, like you would use out of a boat or something. Those are really hard to get flies out of. Once the fish goes in there and twists, you'll be like an hour and a half trying to get that hook out of that particular material and trying to get the fish out. But if you get one with the kind of it's almost a plastic rubber pliable net, man, those are really easy. And then what that net does also is you can put it in the water and acts like actually like a little fish holder. So you can set the fish in. The fish can actually kind of swim, if he's right there, but he's still hooked up and he's not getting out because he's still in the net. And then you can take a little bit more time if you need to get the fly out. Then you can hold him in the water in that net and then let him go. But it acts like a little, just kind of like a little holding place for it. So the rubber ones are the best because the flies don't stick in and get tangled up, and so it makes it really nice. And you can see those. And then they attach it, like say you can do a magnet, or you can just put it on a string, let it hang off your neck or something. I just put it so it just hangs down off, and then I just take it off and just don't lose it. My grandpa gave me a really nice wooden one. I went on the Madison River. I got halfway back to the car, about a mile, and I didn't have my net. So I'm like, oh, great. So I had to walk all the way back and look for it. So I found it, but I didn't want to leave it in there because my grandpa gave it to me. So make sure it's secure and doesn't get dropped off. Any other questions on that? Yep.
You said something about the fishing on the Madison or something that I forgot. Can you repeat that thing again?
I'm not sure what that was. I fished the Madison quite a bit, and so I know it really well. But it's a river that is only about, in some places it's kind of deep, but you can kind of wade basically all of it. It's pretty fast. It's kind of like a riffle, but it's something where it kind of is really shallow most of the way. And there's a lot of, you can get in trouble in certain spots, but it's not like the Snake River. If you get in trouble, it might be 20, 30 feet deep and under a bank or something like that. But the Madison is just a really good place to boat for if you do a drift boat or even wading. So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of fish. About almost behind every rock there will be a fish, depending on the thing or just kind of the habitat and stuff. At a certain point, you can pick out right where they're at. So it's pretty fun to fish, and they're good size fish. Let's see, any other questions on flies? Let's see. Put that there. But that, and if you guys also have my email if you're going fishing somewhere and you need kind of some information just on flies wise of like the Madison, just shoot me an email or something like that, and I'll just kind of shoot you back what I would take up there at a certain time of year or whatever. So it kind of helps.
Where's the best place to go to get flies if you're not at the point of being able to tie your own?
Pretty much like Sportsman's have really good, Sportsman's Warehouse. They have, so if you buy 1 to 11, it's like $1.29 per fly, which is, I went and bought some the other day because I just didn't have time to tie them. Tying the initial, when you're tying them, you have to buy a lot, you have to buy the vise, the everything, and get good at it before you can, start fishing with those flies to a certain point. So at first, if you're not tying flies, it's really good to, if you have $20, go kind of load your box up, and then if you do good fishing on a certain part of that river, and you use a certain fly, just remember to keep that fly in your box. And then just, if you bought 6 of them, and usually don't just buy one, because that's the one that will work the best. Or sometimes if you have one fly, you'll either catch a lot of fish with it, then lose it, and then nothing else will work. But I would probably buy at least 4 of each fly that you're going to take. So like 4 Prince nymphs. Prince nymphs, you could buy a dozen of those in that size, and you're going to use them no matter what. But like the elk hair caddis, you could buy a dozen of those. You could buy 6, and then you just have enough because they're going to work all the time. Pretty much you're going to use them. So they're not just going to sit in your box. It's when you get into the ones that have crazy names and lots of colors that you're not sure what's going, but somebody said, yeah, these work really good, and then you never use it. And so kind of keep with the basics, and then you could branch out. There's lots of different big stone flies, different things. If you go in the Madison, you go to any fly shop and say, hey, what's working? Oh, this is, they'll tell you what's working because they want you to be successful to come back and buy some more flies. And so and any fly shop, not necessarily Sportsman's because they just have them, but a particular fly shop, if you go in, they want you to come back and buy stuff. So they're going to get you the right stuff, and tell you correct, as close as they can. Yeah, I fished this the other day and it worked really well. They're not going to keep it like that.
When you're fishing on a lake versus a stream, like I'm most of my experience is downstream and using a nymph and a dry fly on top. But if you're on a lake, are you pretty much going to be either streaming or doing a dry fly on the edge of the water? Is there a time when you would nymph to be, even towards the edge of a lake or a pond, or is that mainly just?
My internet's kind of going up and down, but basically on a lake, if you can back cast and it's in a good spot, I would you could do the dry fly, or not a dry fly, a floating line, but with a weighted woolly bugger. So a weighted woolly bugger type, and then you just cast and strip in just like you would if you were on a boat, but you're just on land. And so you cast, you go like that, and then you kind of move it. You can go around the lake or something like that, depending on, if you can back cast. And that's really good in the mornings. At night, if there's not a moon, they haven't really been eating. If there's a full moon, they can kind of silhouette food in between them. So the moon, food, and the fish, so they can really see, so they'll eat most of the night. But if it's a darker night in the morning, it's really good because they're hungry and they kind of, they want to eat something. So they'll do that. And then in the evenings, pretty much throughout the day, but the morning, of course, on anything, the morning and the afternoon, evening is the fishing best times.
So what about like little tiny ponds? Like we're going up to Fish Lake and Beaver,
Oh yeah. Yeah. I did a class down there. Which lake, do you know what it is? Which one it is? Is it? Kind of going down. I don't know if you can hear me.
You froze up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Froze up.
Yeah. Any lakes up there? We fished up there. I took 16 kids up there and they all caught fish. But yeah, just from the bank with the floating line with about an 8-foot leader with a woolly bugger on it, and then just change out different woolly bugger colors. And then
a bunch of moss flying around. So I had a lot of luck with like elk colored, type fluffy things because they're loving those moths. So I
Yeah.
just didn't know if that's kind of the best way on those little teeny ponds, or if you want to drop something below.
Pretty much, you can use a floating line, but then you can have it sinking. You can put a Prince nymph on or something, and it goes down just a little bit, and then just work it back.
Okay.
Pretty much. So basically, on a small pond, they'll hit pretty much not everything, but you cast it out, and then just vary how you bring it in, and they'll react to it. And then just like a woolly bugger, anything that has movement or something. But I do a woolly bugger for sure, and then some smaller, like a Prince nymph or something like that would work. So they'll go that way. Any other questions for you guys? So I think that's probably about everything on flies. Like I say, that there's a lot more to it, but it's kind of matching similar to what there's out on the river, and then getting real close to it, and then just kind of fishing it, kind of working it and finding that. So this river fishing, stream fishing, and then lake fishing, and so it's pretty good like that. Let's see. Any other questions you guys have? I think that might be about it for flies. I mean, it's a lot of fun to tie flies, and you get into it just because you're like, well, I like to tie my own just because I don't want to buy them anymore. But when you start out, you don't want to take a year to learn how to tie a fly and then go fishing. Then you want to go out and fish now. But it's pretty fun when you can tie a fly on your own and then go catch a fish on it too. So that's a good thing. Let's see. Any other questions? I think if not, I think that might do it for today. I hope you learned a little bit on that. And then we have one more class next week. I think it's the 29th at 6:30. Same thing. I'll send out the Zoom link. And then we'll kind of just go over just some kind of odds and ends of fly fishing and kind of go from there. But I think that'll, and then like I say, anytime, even after the class is done, if you have my email, I think you have my email, just go ahead and give me a holler, and I sure help, I'll help you out any way I can.
Great class. Thank you, Blake.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Practice casting and go catch some fish.
Okay. Thanks, Blake.
All right.
Thanks.
Let me know how you do up on the Madison. Oh yeah. I'll give you that Madison map. If you just email me, just remind me, and I'll send that out to you.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
it's very helpful. So, all right. We'll see you guys.
Bye.